Basketball Wives Royce Reed, ex of NBA star Dwight Howard, takes to her Instagram to spill all the tea on her ex. She breaks it all down in a series of videos. Titles Royce's story. Please hit the like button and let's get into this video.
Hey y'all, I'm Royce. I'm a little under the weather, but I'm gonna get this out. So, this is my story about how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004 to now. All because I had a baby by Superman. Part 1. July 31st, 2004, I was at the movies at Downtown Disney with 2 of my friends. When 3 male figures walk in, one looking to be about an inch away from being a midget, the other very skinny and he had a bad acne problem, and another one who was extremely tall. As they come over to the concession stand, we are greeted with, "Y'all in my book." Our response was, "What book?" He goes, "My yearbook." I then respond, "No, sweetie, I'm grown." He goes, "No, my magic book. Y'all used to dance with the magic." Oh, yes. He's like, "I'm the rookie." Oh, hey. That's how that went, okay? And he was talking about, oh, y'all not dancing this year, that we left them with the Lion King. Like, it was a bunch of niceties and goofiness, and that was it. He still had braces. It was nothing. So we go to see The Notebook, and they go to see something that I used to think was Transformers, but it was something along those lines. I don't know. Maybe iRobot. I don't know. Anyway, about 10-20 minutes into our movie, I go to the bathroom because I am now in a full-blown argument with my then boyfriend, who is breaking up with me because he is swearing that I'm at the movies with a dude. Obviously, I am not, but he was very insecure, and it was just an ongoing thing with us. So we broke up that day, and I was devastated because, I got dumped. Anyway. Walk out the bathroom, and Superman is sitting there on the bench. And he goes, "No, I should never make you cry like that." Okay, thank you. And he's like, "Nah, you know what I'm saying? I'm young, but no man should ever make you feel like that." He had braces. So I'm like, again, thank you. And I go on about my business, and I go back to the movie. And I'm in the movie doing all of this, of course, on my little aim, my little sidekick. But by the end of the movie, I'm just kind of over it. So we're walking out the theater, and they're leaning on the car like they're in Boys in the Hood. So we're walking across the street, and his cousin comes up to me, which is the one with the acne problem. And he goes, "Hey, my cousin trying to holler at you." And I was like, "Well, why is your cousin not over here?" So he calls him over. And yes, we exchanged numbers. And yes, it probably was because, not even probably, it was because I was trying to make my now ex jealous. It is what it is. I was 24, whatever. So his first text to me was, "Hey, this is real name, the tall guy." So if you've ever seen me put TG on something or heard about that nickname, that's where that came from. So anyway, fast forward, 2 months go by, and I have not gone out with him. I haven't really said too much to him outside of AIM and, T-mail. So I was just being an asshole. Well, realizing that my relationship is now over for real, my dad is like, "Well, why not just go and hang out?" He's like, "You don't have to do anything." He's like, "But just hang out, have some male companionship." Not like that, but just someone to hang out with and have fun that enjoys doing goofy shit like me, right? So we decide that we're going to go to the movies at Festival Bay, which is now changed names probably 20 times. But we go to those movies, and I'll never forget this day because this is when I felt the shift. But it was a man and his son. And the son ran up to me and was like, "Oh my God, you're a magic dancer." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." That never happens, y'all. People don't know the magic dancers here. No, for real. People don't know the magic dancers at all. So I was like taken aback, and he asked if he could take a picture. He pulls out a real camera and he takes a picture. After that day, there was a shift. I started getting invited to promos, to fashion shows, to theme parks, like, team events. I was everywhere. And I had stated a few times that I was thinking about going back to dance, and he was against it. So I did a brand ambassador tour with Cherry Vanilla Dr. Pepper, came back, and I said, I've made up my mind. Like, I'm doing this. And was he being supportive of things that I was doing? Yes. He was at the fashion shows that I did with Gaucher. Yes, that Gaucher. Hey, girl. He was coming to my parties. I mean, he was around. So I'm not going to say like he wasn't doing anything. He was. But I wanted my career. I went back. The team took me back, knowing what our history was. I danced that year. The next year I said I wanted to go to Miami. I said I wanted to dance for the Heat. That was my dream team, either there or the Dallas Cowboys. And both of those he was completely against, and I had no idea why. He would offer like our suggestions for other teams, but never those two. Just completely against anything in Texas and Miami. Now you'll know why. I audition for the team. I make it. Yay me. And after a couple weeks, there's a couple girls that are just treating me weird, and I didn't know why. Well, I ended up finding out that he had cheated on me with one of my teammates who used to live in Texas, but now was coming to the Heat, and he had been trying to get both of us to not say anything. Anyway, broke up with him and was trying to live my best life, y'all. Really was, right? And I ended up getting in an argument with one of my best friends on the team that you all know as Super Black Girl, Tracy. Got in an argument with her, so I was suspended for 2 weeks. So I went to Mexico with my DJ friend, and we had time of our life, whatever. Came back, and my phone is blowing up, my little sidekick, and it's him. And I'm asking for advice from my DJ friend, and he's like, hey, just go and talk to him. Just see what he got to say. Just hear him out. Like, maybe he really is sorry. Okay. I go to the hotel, and at first he wasn't in there because he was at, like, team meetings. But then he comes in, and we're in there, and we're talking, and he's pleading his case and asking for forgiveness, talking about how much he loves me and that he'll never do it again, that I'm the one for him, I'm perfect this, perfect that. All these things, y'all. And I said I would think about it. I said, I'll talk to you later. So I walked to the room, or I walked to the door, and he pulls me back with my arm, and he's like, well, can I at least have a hug? Sure. That hug turned into kissing and touching and our child being conceived. I did not know I was pregnant until about a little over a month later when I was in practice, and one of the dancers who, funny story, ended up marrying the head coach of, that's not important, sorry. So after practice, I go to Walgreens and I buy a pregnancy test, and I take it home, take the test, call my brothers and girlfriend, wait for the results, and when I see them, I start bawling. I literally lost it. I saw my entire career just disappear, and I was devastated. I called my mom in the same state of mind. She's losing it. She's freaking out until I finally tell her, like, I'm pregnant. She goes, oh, I thought you killed somebody. That's how hard I was crying. She asked me if I had told him, and I said, I've been texting him. I've been texting his cousin. I've been texting his best friend, and nobody was responding. And I said, Mom, I cannot be a mother. And I said, please help me. Like, I cannot be a mom. I'm not ready to be a mother. And she was like, well, you're going to have to tell your dad. So for 2 days, I waited for a response. And when I finally got one, the response was, I was asleep. I responded, for 2 days, you just played a game in Milwaukee last night. And then he responded, I thought you were on birth control. Hey y'all, It's Royce. And this is my story about how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004 to now, all because I had a baby by Superman, part 2. We left off with, I thought you were on birth control. I'd like for it to be noted that I had not been on birth control our entire relationship. He was very aware, and also as to why he was not against it. Also, I'd like for it to be noted that there was no attempt to pull out that particular day, whereas in the past he would move so fast that he would run into the dresser drawers. So let's continue. About a week went on and there was a little bit of communication, and the communication was regarding terminating the pregnancy. I was told that he would help me. I just needed to get to Orlando and we would do it there. I said, okay, not a problem. Just know it has to be a quick turnaround because I have to get back to work and I can't let my parents know. Please understand, I had no idea how abortions worked at all. So I'm thinking that I could just get up and turn around. Anyway, communication ceased again. Now I'm having to talk to my parents. I talked to my mom again. She was adamant about me telling my dad. So I told my dad, and my dad was like, huh? And I'm like, huh, what? He goes, all right. And I said, well, I don't want you to worry because I'm not going to keep the baby. I'm going to terminate the pregnancy and then I'm going to finish the season out. I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to fulfill this contract that I got with Treasure Island. Like, I had all these plans and I was going to pursue my career. And he was like, no. He's like, you're going to have to put that on hold. And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, you were woman enough to lay down. You're going to be woman enough to keep this baby. Now, back then, it wasn't a decision that was just easily made where you could just go to a clinic, okay? It was also extremely expensive, especially for someone who was dancing on basketball courts in booty shorts and a half top. So my mom did not give me the money, and I was now stuck. And I was asking friends. I was trying to just figure out anything I could do. It even got to the point where I was drinking magnesium citrate, or I was trying to use a hanger. It was bad. It was bad. But when I went to the doctor and I heard the heartbeat, that is when things were put into a bigger perspective for me. I don't know what it is, but when you hear that heartbeat, it changes you. And I knew then that I was going to be a mom. And so now it's time to tell Superman that he is having a baby. And as you can imagine, that message was not received well. And I was met with a bunch of, oh, you're tarnishing my image, you're ruining my career. I'm a Christian, what I look like having a baby, and I'm trying to put the cross on the NBA logo. How could you do this to me? You're a gold digger. Oh yeah, I was hit with everything, y'all. Like I didn't have a career. But because none of those changed my mind, he then hits me with, and I have a girlfriend. Okay. I've always had a girlfriend. Oh, wow. Okay. So now I'm realizing, y'all, that not only is this person a completely different person than I thought he was, but I've realized that he is a master manipulator and he will do any and everything to get exactly what he wants. I didn't fall for it. And because I didn't fall for it, I was then met with hell on earth. When I was about 4 or 5 months pregnant, I was asked to attend a meeting at a restaurant right around the corner from my townhome. I agreed to it, and when I got there, one of the first things said to me was, "You don't look pregnant." I said, "Thank you." They said, "No, because you have your belly ring in still." Mind you, I had already had this conversation before about wearing a belly ring while I was pregnant. I just liked it. But then they said that it just looks like you're poking your stomach out. Why am I here? Like, what the fuck y'all got going on? What do you want? Right? We sit down, and in this meeting is his manager, his cousin, himself. I am then offered money. I'm asking what the money is for. I'm thinking that maybe it's to help me with my pregnancy. No. I was asked to move away and say that this baby was not his. Twice. I declined. They got angry. I was then approached by the team office, and they wanted me to come in and have a sit-down conversation and do a prenatal paternity test. My doctor said absolutely not. Therefore, I said no, it was dangerous, and once the baby came, I was not opposed to doing so. For the next couple months, I got ready for a baby shower. I got ready with my baby registry. And every time I did anything, I was met with false accusations. I was threatened. With the baby registry, I was told to take his name off of there. And I did. For the baby shower invitations, I was told to take the name off of there. So I did. But I still was getting threatened. I was still receiving anonymous messages on MySpace and Twitter. And I didn't know what to do. Around early November, I started having really bad complications with my pregnancy, and I was put on bed rest. I didn't listen, but I was put on bed rest. As hard as it was to sit still, it was something that I knew I needed to do because I could tell something was wrong. On November 16th, I had a doctor's appointment, and my doctor was like, you need to go to the hospital, and they need to put you on a monitor. Stop letting them tell you that you're dehydrated. I said, okay, cool. We go to the hospital. They still don't put me on the monitor, and I'm just over it, and I go home. Around 3:33 that next morning, November 16th, I woke up to excruciating pain. I threw something down the stairs. My brother came up, who had been staying with me, told him I needed to go to the hospital. We go to the hospital. They finally put me on a monitor, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're having contractions for real. No shit. They say that they're going to admit me. I said, until how long? They said, until you have this baby. Oh, cool. Tell my mom everything. This is also during Classic Weekend. 54 and a half hours, I was in labor, and my child was delivered via C-section. They knew the day that I went into the hospital, they knew the complications I was having. They knew that the child's heart rate had been dropping, and not one person cared. Not one person responded to that at all. But when they found out that the baby was born, an immediate message came through to my mother asking for a picture. I said, send the picture. She sent the picture, and the response was, oh, that's my grandbaby. To me, all babies look alike when they're born, so whatever, but hey, go off. I was thinking that maybe that was going to be a start to something better, but it was actually the gateway to hell. For the next 3 days, I stayed in the hospital, and not one time did I receive a visit from him or anyone in his family, but his girlfriend actually did stop by unannounced and uninvited with a bag of bibs talking about we needed to speak. I said, no, we don't. Asked her to leave, and she left. It was cool. Well, a few days later, I was discharged from the hospital the day before Thanksgiving, actually. And on Thanksgiving, we go to my cousin's every single year, who stayed right around the corner from him. He kept saying that he was going to come by, that he was around the corner, that he was about to ring the doorbell. All these things, kept saying that he was coming by. Y'all, he never showed up. We then ended up taking a paternity test at a neutral location, even though the team had asked me to take it at their offices, and I said, hell no, because I don't trust them. We took it at a neutral location. The results came back on Christmas Eve. He acted like he was excited, wanted to see the baby the next day, Christmas. I said, cool. Christmas comes. He's like, who all over there? And he wanted to see him by himself. I said, absolutely not. I'm not telling my family to leave. They're my support system. So they stayed. He comes in. He's with his cousin. His cousin is taking all these pictures. I'm not taking pictures. His cousin's taking pictures. Next thing we know, a few days later, these pictures that his cousin has taken, one in particular where he's laying on the sofa and our child is on his shoulder, has now gone, like, I guess back then, viral. And everybody now knows that Superman has a baby. Hey y'all, it's Royce, and I'm back again to tell you about how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004, and still now, all because I had a baby by Superman, part 3. We are now in January of 2008, and I am at my cousin's house, the same cousin that stays around the corner from him. He calls and he says that he wants to come and have a talk with me. I said, okay. He comes by, Superman is bearing gifts. There's a brand new car outside for me, a Lexus SUV, a brand new sidekick phone, and he offers to buy me a house. After talking it over with my dad, my mom, it was absolutely not, because the house is not going to be in your name, and it's something that he can take from you at any moment if he gets mad. So I declined it. He then said, well, let me refurnish your townhouse. Okay. I was not asked about any type of furniture. They just showed up at my door one day and just started bringing stuff in. No lie. I had no say so. When it came down to me needing diapers and bottles and now formula, because I'm no longer able to breastfeed, my body wasn't producing enough milk. His mom did at one point come by with a bunch of diapers. I was very thankful. But that was it. There was nothing else. There was no help. There was nothing. At this point, I auditioned for a dancing gig at Holy Land. And I got the gig, so I began dancing in late January. So now I have a job. I'm working. On the days that I had to work, my child was with my parents. And on occasion, he would be with his father and the nanny and his girlfriend. Well, there were days where he would come home from seeing or spending time with his father, and he would be very colicky, throwing up, like sick. I mean, fevers, would have to take him to the doctor. It was a lot. That relationship he was in ended. I find out later on that the reason my child was returned super colicky, sick, throwing up, all these things, only to then be told it was because they were purposely giving him food that was opposite of what he was eating. I would pack a bag and I would have it listed of what he should be eating for lunch, for dinner, all these things. And he was intentionally given the opposite. So when he would be returned home, he was sick, colicky, throwing up, having to go to the hospital. When I confronted the situation, I was told that that was a lie and that it was only done because they thought I was trying to micromanage, and they decided that they were just going to give him whatever they wanted to give him. Okay. I let it go, y'all. Now, again, we've had the birthday party. We've had our Christmas. Things seem to be going okay, right? We've now gone to mediation, and in mediation we agreed to a child support number, and it was drastically, probably a third of what one of my attorneys was requesting. I said that I didn't want to seem like I was out for his money, so I was okay with the amount that was given. Totally fine. Moving forward, I start dating. Now all of a sudden it's, I think we should make this work. This is your first kid. This is, my first kid. Let's make this work. Now, this is where I could probably be stupid. Well, I was dumb. I saw family. And I am a very forgiving person. If you know anything about me, I forgive way too much. So we decided to work on a relationship. Crazy, right? But we did. Almost immediately, I regretted it. I was forced to do things sexually that I did not necessarily agree with. But because I wasn't that experienced, I thought it was normal. And I never complained about it. I just felt like this was me experiencing things that maybe he has experienced and I have not. That's when things started turning verbally and physically and also mentally abusive. I was told that I was stupid. I was told that nobody would ever want me. I was told that everybody here loved him and hated me. And how does it feel to have my hometown turn on me? I better not ever leave him. If I left him ever, he would make my life a living hell. And he did. There were days that I would be at his home and I was threatened with a knife, and then it was laughed off. But when the knife was in my face, it was, I could kill you right now and get away with it because I could claim self-defense and they would believe me and not you because who are you? That happened. He came to my house one day to pick up our child, and because I did not have a bag packed or orange Trident gum or soda in my refrigerator, he followed me into our child's closet and he grabbed me and he pushed me to the floor and said, in the future, I better have his bag waiting. I then left. I go out into the family room and I'm telling his best friend, the one that's an inch away from being a little person. And I'm like, get your friend. He's going crazy. What's wrong with him? Well, he comes in there and he, in front of his best friend, as well as my goddaughter, my other goddaughter, he grabs my hair and he forces me to the floor. And he's like, who the are you talking to? Our child, who is not even 2 yet, is thinking he's playing. So he's grabbing at his leg with his baby voice, and he throws me into the entertainment center. When he threw me into the entertainment center, it broke the door. So I was flung into the one on the right, and our son, who was grabbing him and like thinking he was playing, he then flung him into the other door. I do not think that was intentional. I don't think he knew his own strength, but that's what he did. And it did break that door as well. Our son started crying. His best friend was like, man, what you doing? Like, you know, that's a female. And he's just not caring. That's when I realized, like, oh my God, I'm in a relationship that I swore I would never be in. Now, moving on, the day that I really wanted to leave was a day where I did not want to have relations with him. And he then forced me to give him fellatio. I know you're wondering, how does someone force you into doing that? When you are dealing with someone that is that big and you are that small and you're terrified of them and they have gotten away with so much and doing so many things, and you're still the one made out to be crazy and bitter, you're probably willing to do just about anything just to get through it. And that's where I was. After that, another nanny came into the picture. I knew this nanny was not okay. When she would drop our child off, he would sit in the doorway and he was hitting himself. Or he would be in the bathtub and he would be playing with himself in a really weird way that just didn't seem right. Of course, he was little, so he couldn't really vocalize things. But yeah, I could tell something wasn't right. There was the day where I invited her inside and I sat her down and I said, I just need to talk to you. And I said, have you ever put your hands on my son? And she swore up and down no. And I said, well, why is he sitting in a doorway hitting himself or playing with himself in a bathtub? And she was like, oh my God, I don't know. Why would you even ask me something like that? I said, because I want to know. She swore up and down that she had never put her hands on my son in an inappropriate way or even as a disciplinarian. I said, okay. And I said, but if I find out that you have ever put your hands on my son, we're going to have a problem. She asked me if that was a threat. I said, no, it's not a threat. It's a promise. She then went back and told them that I threatened her. And I told them the same thing, that I didn't threaten her, that I made a promise. And that's when things started getting hidden from me about what was going on at that house with my child. But I found out anyway. This is also around the time that Basketball Wives was coming to fruition. Hey y'all, it's Royce, and I'm here to tell you how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004, up until even now, all because I had a baby by Superman, part 4. So I need to go back through 2009 a little bit more in depth because that's where a lot of your questions are. So the first part of 2009, I'll say the first quarter, I am confiding in Shawnee. I'm talking to her about pretty much everything I'm going through. She was one of the first people I told that I was pregnant, so I really thought I had a friend. When it came down to me telling her that Superman had reached out about trying to work things out, it was do what you feel is best for you and your son, follow your heart, don't listen to what people have to say, nothing biased. So I decide to work things out. As we're working things out, there are also conversations about a reality show. When I discussed it with him, he was all for it. He wanted to do it. He was excited about it. I told Shawnee, and easy sell. So during this time, we are working on our relationship. We are out in public. I mean, I'm going to the games. Our son is wearing his jersey. We had a Magic Dancer reunion. It was just a lot going on. I am buying a house. I am shooting a sizzle reel in Miami for the show. And that's when the verbal assault started. But I took my ass to LA and I went and I pitched that show to all those different networks, and I talked about how great of a relationship I was in, and I just knew I got it sold. I get back home and I find out that I have been cheated on with several women. All that I kept thinking in my head was, this man does not like to use condoms. I went off. I went to the clinic, I got tested, and I went off on Twitter. I mean, woo! I was letting his ass have it, y'all. Of course, he got pissed off, and we, broke up. And then a couple days later is when he comes by the house, and he's supposed to be picking up our son. He's mad because I would usually have a backpack and some of his favorite snacks at my house, but we're not together, so why the fuck would I have that? But anyway, obviously, he's in a bad mood, so I'm just trying to ignore his attitude. He's yelling in the house like, oh, I'm ready to go, and where's his bag? And I'm like, it's in the closet. He goes to the closet, and I'm asking him like, yo, you good? Like, you okay? Because you acting real strange. He turns around and proceeds to tell me how stupid and useless I am, how I'm worth nothing, how nobody will ever want me, no man is ever going to want to be with me, how I'm the best that he could ever get, I'll be back, all these things. That's when I go into the family room and I tell his friend, like, yo, get your friend. He acting crazy. Like, what's wrong with him? And he comes out. That's when he grabs my hair, flings me into the entertainment center. Same thing with our son. I told this story in part 3. I don't really want to have to rehash it. But before they left, obviously his friend is saying, hey, man, stop. That's a female. But he's still screaming and calling me every name besides the one I was given. They then pick up our son, and they leave. I'm now left to have this conversation about what just happened with my goddaughter. After that, I then had to pick up our son from his house. And I'm sorry, y'all. I do not know why I laugh or smile when I'm telling my trauma. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I know it looks weird. I know it looks crazy. I don't know if it's a coping mechanism. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm trying. I don't know why I do that. But they leave with our son, and like I said, I have to now go and pick him up from his house after this visitation, and I'm in his room, and that's when the knife situation happened. It should also be noted that prior to me going to pick up our son, we had a few conversations, and I forgave him again. So I get to the house, and he asked me to come into his room. I go, he closes the door, and he pulls a knife out on me. He says, I could really kill you right now and claim self-defense, and they would believe me because everyone loves me here, and they hate you. To attempt to rewrite history is crazy because those of you who were at the house that day know exactly what happened. But maybe that hypnotism did work. So he comes over to the house about a week or so later, and we're hanging out with our son, watching a movie in the family room. Remember, we're trying to work things out. And I go to the bathroom. When I come out the bathroom, he's in the bedroom. He wants to have sex. I say no. My cycle is on. He says he wants head. And I say, no, our son is right there in the other room. He proceeds to get up. He shuts the door. He comes over to me and he pushes me down to the floor like he did before. And he proceeds to ram his waist into my face. If you can imagine what that feels like, think about someone punching you in your nose at 6'11", 200 pounds, and their pants are still on. Think about that happening over and over and over again to you. You're now in tears. Your son is in the next room. You've already basically been told that you're hated by your hometown, so call the police on Superman? Clark Kent? Baby Jesus of Orlando? No, you can't do that. Okay, so that situation happened, and that is what ultimately led me to leave the relationship. Not soon after that, the show got picked up. And that's when contracts started going around and our attorneys started speaking with each other. And because I was still signed on to do the show and he was not, they were concerned about what I was going to say on the show. So they were like, well, we just want to make sure that she doesn't say anything bad about him because of his career. And we don't want any type of, defamation. And of course, I'm like, well, is it defamation if it's true? But okay. And then it was also me saying, well, I don't plan on that being my storyline. I don't have to talk bad about him. I don't really have to talk about him at all. The next day, my attorney calls me to his office and he's like, hey, you need to get here as soon as possible. I need you to sign this agreement. And I was like, what agreement? He said, the agreement about what we talked about yesterday with you and Superman. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I get in my car, and I think I was even at the park because I was close. But I get to his office, and it's not even 4:50 yet. It's like 4:40 something. And he's like, sign this agreement. So I'm looking at it first. I'm trying to at least skim it. And he goes, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just checking I'm supposed to read everything. So he says it's basically the conversation that we had, a couple days prior, just in writing. I said, okay. I signed the paper. I trusted him to my detriment. He then goes, hurry up, we gotta go. I'm like, okay. So we're rushing out the office. I'm right behind this man, and we go to get in the car. He's like, what you doing? I was like, you said we gotta go. And he was like, well, not you. I was like, what do you mean, not me? He was like, you're not dressed appropriately. I had on an orange tank top and jeans and sneakers. This man went to court, and rather than me not be there for the judge to ask me if I knew what I was signing, for the judge to go through the different provisions of what that agreement said, and me have to agree to it, my attorney did that. You want to know what that agreement said? That I could not say his name, any type of insinuation, his middle name, nobody in his family's name, his friend's name. I couldn't even say my son's name, y'all. And if anybody in the room was even talking about him, I would have to leave. And it said not till death, but till death and the end of time. That attorney later withdrew as my attorney. But there's a new agreement in place, which trumps the old one. So as much as I wanted to fight it and argue it down because it was on some bullshit, my attorney had to remind me, it's not about the little battles. It's about the war. Hey y'all, it's Royce, and I'm here to tell you a story about how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004 to even now, all because I had a baby by Superman, part 5. I think it's also important to note when people ask, well, why couldn't you all try and work this out? Y'all needed therapy. We were actually given a parenting coordinator, and I went to all the appointments. He went to one. He stopped showing up. So she ended up writing a letter stating that she could not do her job because of his failure to participate. So we are now at the end of 2009. And unbeknownst to me, this agreement I've signed has just basically destroyed my life. Well, not only am I fighting him in civil court, but I'm also fighting him in family court. They are filing all these motions claiming that I am denying visitation when half the time they asked for it, he wasn't even in town. But what does that mean? More attorney fees, more court costs. Because every time a motion was filed, we had to answer. During this time, I am also dealing with one of his minions that is going on the internet and threatening to fight me at my son's birthday party. She was saying that someone was going to end up at the 33rd Street jail, that they needed to have her bail money because there was going to be trouble. I am expressing my concern regarding this person, and finally it was agreed that she would not come. So now here we are in the first quarter of 2010, and I'm filming the show. I am living my best life. I am outside. I am dancing at pool parties. And here comes another lawsuit. What does that mean? Another set of retainer fees. There goes my first check. So the second quarter of 2010, I am getting drained with attorney fees. I'm fighting him in family court as well as civil court. And I'm also doing promo for the show. I am now asked to go on the Wendy Williams show. Not as a guest, but as a how you doing girl. She asked me if my son's father was Superman. I said yes. I'm now sued. I am sued for $500 million. As I'm dealing with this latest lawsuit and people are laughing at me all over the internet and wishing hell on me, hoping that I go to jail, calling me every name in the book, I am also getting harassed by the same person who threatened to fight me at my son's birthday party. She is sending me messages about, how does it feel to not be number one anymore? How does it feel to know you're not the only one? Don't you feel stupid? And what was she talking about? We have welcomed baby number 2, a little girl born in June of 2010. In September of 2010, there was another lawsuit. What does that mean? More money, in which at this point I did not have. He won. There was a writ of garnishment that was made out for November of 2010. And they went and looked for every single account that I had. And they took everything from me. Not only did they do that, they found the account that I had with my mother since I was a little girl. The very first account I ever had, and she was attached to it. It wasn't even an account that I used anymore. But because they didn't get anything out of that account from me, they took everything from her. They took my mom's entire savings. In the early part of 2011, I released my book, College Girls. I was hosting parties. I had a boyfriend, the one that bought me the dog. I was doing the weekly blog for the show. I was in Detroit doing the play Cheaters. I was hustling, y'all. Come June of 2011, wouldn't you know, by the grace of God, out pops Superman and Sister C. This one is a Christian. She is modest. She is a beautiful girl, all natural. And I mean, very Little House on the Prairie. Perfect for his image. He is getting baptized. He is giving himself to God. He is in love. Visitations seem as if they are becoming more consistent. So I'm grateful. August comes, and because visitation has become a little bit more consistent, my son is now waiting for him on the curb. Yes, just like the little picture of the kid sitting on the curb with a lunchbox waiting for their parent that never comes. That was my child, the one and only time I allowed him to do that. But nobody called to say that they weren't coming. And because I turned into the FBI, I find bitches instantly. I went on Twitter because I wanted to know where he was. And this was around the time where people were putting all their business out there. So I saw a picture, and he was in New Jersey. He was on a basketball court with his pastor, Zachary Timms. Oh, I had to go back through my calendar, and I was making sure that this was a day that he was supposed to have our son. And it was, and I reached out to my attorney. I sent the picture to my attorney, and I'm like, what is going on? There was no response. So the next day, I get back on the internet because I want to see if there's at least a timeline of a return, because my plans have now changed, but it's always been that way. Well, All of a sudden, the Twitter page went from 10,000 plus tweets to 10, 20. What happened? Did he find out that I saw that he was in New Jersey and didn't get our son for visitation? No. I then see a headline that says, Pastor Zachary Timms is no longer with us. Oh. For the rest of that year, I minded my business. Although I was still fighting in court and talking about this nanny and being told I was a liar, I kept my mouth shut. Well, now we're in January of 2012, and I am dating my football player, and I am happy. A picture comes out of him taking a nap with my son. Fully clothed, very innocent picture. The narrative that is given is that my boyfriend was being inappropriate with him. They took that narrative and they ran with it for weeks. They didn't care that it could destroy this person's character, his career, his reputation, nothing. It wasn't about the nanny who was actually being inappropriate. It was about a distraction. Why? Well, in February, that is when I was made aware that he was leaving Orlando. And then in March, here comes baby number 3. Baby number 3 is over a year old. Baby number 3 is a little girl. Baby number 3 was born the same year as baby number 2. We are now in April of 2012, and Superman is having back surgery in California, and I'm ecstatic that he is no longer here because I'm thinking he's going to leave me alone. He does not. I am hit with another lawsuit. In this lawsuit, I am almost immediately demanded to send my child to California for 6 weeks. I get 1 week of visitation. Yes, I was forced to send my child to California for 6 weeks to be with a person that he has not seen in 6 months, even when he was in Orlando. That visitation exchange was probably one of the worst situations I've ever had to endure. I watched my child hyperventilate. I watched my child scream. I watched my child reach for me to take him, and I had to let him go. I was given a visit halfway through, and I saw the same exact thing. And I was also there with one of my dancer friends that I dance with in Miami, who I also dance with sometimes when I take a heels class. They were there to console me because I could not, in my mind, save my child. After that visitation, I was hit in court with more motions, more visitation requests for days that he was not even in town. And there was one time where we actually did communicate and came up with a visitation schedule, and flights had already been made, but his attorneys wanted to go to court claiming that I was denying visitation. I went to court that day and I showed the judge that we already had the flight information. His attorneys sat there and were acting so oblivious as if they had no idea. In 2013, I'm hit with more court filings and requests to produce as usual. But around April, I'm hearing rumors of another baby. Well, come June, that baby is born, a little boy. And I say on Twitter, congratulations, happy birthday. This baby was born in California, my Little House on the Prairie, Sister Seat, and he has now been traded to Houston. Hey y'all, it's Royce, and I am here to tell you a story about how my life changed beginning July 31st, 2004, up until even now, all because I had a baby by Superman, part 6. We are now in the fall of 2013. I am getting my son prepared for kindergarten. I have actually gotten him tested, and he has been diagnosed with ADHD. For those of us with children who have ADHD and have taken medication for it, you know ADHD medication is not something that you can start and just stop cold turkey. So there were visitations that were happening, and they were refusing to give him his medication. I was also against him traveling so much because he's literally in kindergarten, the first grade of grade school. So outside of my son having to travel on Friday nights to Sunday evenings just to get up for school the next day and go, I am now concerned because they are refusing to give him his medication. They lied and said that they had a doctor from Sarasota come and examine him. And when I spoke to that doctor in Sarasota, that doctor said that he absolutely did not examine my son. He only told them what the medications that he was taking were for. He also let them know that it was dangerous to stop the medication cold turkey. They did it anyway.